If you don't want to go to court in your divorce case, you have options. One of those that people usually don't even think about is called collaborative divorce. And I'm not talking about collaborative with a little c, I'm talking about collaborative with a big C. And here's what I mean. Big C collaborative is defined in the Texas Family Code. That's the special laws that deal with family law stuff in the state of Texas. And in there, collaborative divorce gives families options to stay out of the court process. And generally speaking, here's how it works. So somebody will come into our office and say, oh yeah, like we really want to get along. We've got a decent bit of assets. We kind of know what we want to do about kids. We'd really like to keep this out of the public eye. And we don't want to spend a bunch of money fighting with like different opposing lawyers and experts and accountants. So my ears perk up and I say, you may want to consider a collaborative divorce case. And they're like, okay, well, what is a collaborative divorce case? And what happens is you would then need your other party, like your spouse, to agree to go through this process. And the two of y'all say like, hey, okay, we don't want to have a big war. We want to get on the same page. We want this to end well for our kids and for our family. And they go hire a lawyer who participates in collaborative divorce. So both of y'all have lawyers and you say, okay, collaborative divorce. I'm like, here we are talking, I like look like ducks. Collaborative divorce sounds like a good idea. Let's do it. And so you enter into a collaborative divorce process. You fill out some special forms. You still file for divorce and everything, but you're like, nah, not court. We're good. We got this. We're going the collaborative front. And the way I think of it is like you're on a highway, okay? And you start at your house and the end of your destination is divorce. But we're going to take the off ramp for a second for collaborative divorce. And you know how you get back on the highway real quick? You're going to get back on that highway and actually end up at divorce, but you just sort of missed all the weird traffic along the way of court cases and litigation. So here's the catch. If you don't end up settling your divorce through mediation and like y'all just cannot agree and kind of the big fight at court is required, do not pass go, do not collect $200 for sure. You got to go back to the beginning, fire your lawyers, get new lawyers, and start all the way over. So the stakes are really high to stay invested to get the case settled. That makes sense, right? It's like we all have a ton of skin in the game. We're not going to quit. We're not going to like threaten going into court if you're not doing what I want. It's a really, really good option if you've got two like relatively reasonable people who can come to terms and you think you can work it out. Like this will not work if one of y'all is a burn it down, scorched earth, get revenge kind of person. You won't make it very far on your off ramp before you got to go back into traffic. And so the way it practically works along the way is you file for divorce, you enter into this agreement to do collaborative divorce, and then you have some group meetings. And this is a bit weird to those of us litigation lawyers, but you literally sit down in a room with your about to be ex, their lawyer, your lawyer, you, and then usually someone who's an expert about kids and someone who's an expert about money. So you have this big conference room full of a bunch of people, everybody billing at a billable rate except for you and your spouse. So like that's an expensive meeting. You're going to sit across the table from them and try to work through different issues together. So like you got to think, can we be the sort of people who can sit at the same table and work this out? If no, maybe you don't need to go this route. Or like, if you're not in this moment, could you be in a few months once everybody kind of chills out a little bit? So then you have this series of these group meetings where you're working on issues about like, what's the business worth? What kind of a schedule works good for the kids, given all their stuff going on? And you'll do those meetings, not in this one conference room, but like the parties will go meet with the mental health expert together. The parties will meet with the accountant, maybe separately and together. And the lawyers often don't even do anything between these meetings except, answer some questions and stuff for y'all. But we're not like going to court or anything like we are. So then in other cases. So then you meet back up at your next collaborative meeting and you can have several of those until you're really close on certain issues. And you may just come up with a deal and everybody signs off. And then you pop back on real quick, the divorce highway, enter it with the court and you're done. Or oftentimes what'll happen is you get really, really close, but there's a few issues where between the lawyers, we just can't get it done. We still go to mediation. I was just at one like a couple weeks ago. We still go to mediation in a collaborative divorce case, and that third party neutral will help us those few last remaining issues about the business or about stocks or certain accounts or assets or kids will help us get on the same page, come to an agreement, and then you can move forward, getting back to the divorce route. So a lot of things are similar. The key difference is you're never going to see the inside of a courtroom in a contentious, like fighting situation if you go the collaborative route and nobody ends up pulling out and costing you both your lawyers. You absolutely want to consider collaborative divorce as an option for you and your family if you'd like to not turn up the heat in terms of the fight. If you'd like to share experts like business valuations, house appraisals, things like that. If you'd like to keep your information private, that's one of the huge benefits. It's sort of like mediation, like what happens in collaborative divorce stays in collaborative divorce. So, like a big cheating scandal situation is not going to come out in all of the court records, it stays inside of the collaborative divorce process. And in fact, all the work and all the stuff you do during collaborative divorce can't be used in your future trial. So, like, if you're in a situation where you want to conserve resources, you want it to be private, and you want to try to work together to end your marriage well, collaborative divorce is something that you and your family are really going to want to consider. And most people don't even know about it. We can help you with that. We love doing collaborative divorce at Hembree Bell Law. When considering a collaborative divorce, you may read a bunch of stuff online that will tell you that it can be a faster, cheaper way to go about this. My experience, that's not really the case because you got a lot of parties. And usually, if you're doing collaborative divorce, a decent bit of assets and things you've got to divide up. So, when you go the collaborative route, it can often take just as long as any other case would take because you have a lot of scheduling issues. These are usually seasoned, busy lawyers trying to get all, like, I don't know, 6 or 8 people in the same room on the same day at the same time. And if you've ever done any scheduling in the legal context, you know that really can take an act of Congress. So it's not my advice to do collaborative if your primary motivators for doing so would be efficiency in terms of time and money. It would be more so if you need privacy, to be on the same page, and to share those experts. Another question that I get asked a lot when people are considering whether to go the collaborative divorce route in their divorce case in Texas is what's the difference between uncontested and collaborative? Well, they're significantly different. Remember, we talked about collaborative divorces with the capital C in the Texas Family Code. It is like a legal mechanism to avoid the courthouse. You have an agreement. If at any point either one of you bail out because you can't agree, you lose your lawyers and you start over. Versus with an uncontested agreement or case, there's no agreement to stay out of the courthouse. It could become contested by this afternoon if somebody ate lunch they didn't like or you looked at them sideways. The whole thing can blow up without any catch that if you exit the process. Uncontested really just means like we agree on everything. And like plot ruiner, probably your divorce is not uncontested. Like pretty much nobody's divorce is uncontested in the way that they mean. To a lawyer, uncontested means like you got it all figured out. Everything about the money, everything about the kids, how the schedule's going to work, that's it. Typically, people are getting divorced for a reason. And that reason is they're not the best at communicating and getting on the same page. So your uncontested divorce to you may seem uncontested, but when I'm hearing it, I'm like, so you mean you already have all the terms detailed out down to when you're going to spend Easter where in what y'all figured out? And they're like, oh, well, I think there might be a little bit of an issue on the kid's schedule. Oh, well, then you're not uncontested. So that's the thing. I get the idea. It's like, we don't want a big war. So that is what they would have in common if it's uncontested and collaborative. Like usually that means we don't want to have a big fight, but one is a mechanism within the Texas Family Code. And one is a thing that's probably not even really a thing once you get a little bit farther into it.